Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 45th Stately Office Hours. This is where us, the team at Stately, talk to you about what we've been working on Stately tools and with XState as well. Let you know what we've been doing, give you some demos, answer your questions, get your feedback. If you're live in the comments on YouTube or Twitch, we can bring them straight here into the studio. Otherwise, I'll be looking out for you on Twitter, on our Discord, which is discord.gg/xstate. There's a dedicated office hours channel in there and on LinkedIn as well. And I can grab all your questions or any feedback that you've got from there, whether you want to leave it now or any time throughout the week. We always love to hear from you. Let's start off as we do every week, introducing the team. We've got some different faces on the screen today, so it's nice to have some new faces here, or new if you haven't met them before. But just in case you haven't, we'll introduce ourselves. My name is Laura and I do advocacy for Stately. Next up is David.
Yeah, I'm David, the founder of Stately, creator of XState.
And Farzad.
Hey, I'm Farzad, based in Finland, engineer at the Stately.
And next up, I'm going left to right. We'll go Gavin.
Hey, I'm Gavin, one of the backend engineers here at Stately.
The one and only now.
Yeah, I just realized that.
For now.
A one-man department. And Mateusz.
Hi, I'm a software engineer at Stately, and I'm working on the core of XState, improving what I can.
And last but not least, Kevin.
Hi, I'm Kevin. I'm doing engineering at Stately.
Okay, so that is our wonderful team. Let's get started with what everybody always loves first, and that's demos. Farzad, you've got demos for us this week.
Yeah, I do. Oh, you're actually looking at the screen that I don't see myself, but that is nice. So we introduced a bunch of new changes to the Stately editor. We fixed a lot of bugs internally. We cleaned up a lot of stuff, but two main public things that we changed were, one of them was that right now, if you select any entities, any state nodes, or any events on the canvas, you should be able to press escape and clear it out. This was one of the feature requests in Canny that we addressed, and I think it was a pretty good quick win for us because it was really annoying for me personally because you expect that to be the default behavior. But now it works. Great, which takes us to the second small change that we made, and was that, by the way, many people may not know this, but we have a tree view on the left side panel here. And that means that when you click on something, you can select them, and then it will take you to the entity and the on the canvas, any events and nodes. And if you click them, it will select it in the canvas. But previously, it wasn't supporting multi-selection. Now you can press Shift as you do it normally on the canvas and select multiple elements. And you can do it now in the tree view as well. And hey, the integration works. Press Escape and it's clear. So I think that's about it.
Yeah, but it's really good because these are all features that a lot of us use in other tools. And so we're so used to having them work. And when they don't, it's really frustrating. So that's really made the experience much better.
Now, Farzad, what if I wanted to select everything instead of clicking every single?
Oh, we talked about it.
Question.
We introduced this feature last week and we demoed it on the previous office hours. But for whoever, who didn't see it like before, you can press Command and A or Control and A on Windows operating system, and then just select everything as you would do it normally. So muscle memory to the win.
Huge.
Actually, I don't need to click outside anymore. I can just go Command A and escape. This is going to be my weekend.
Oh, there we go. The feature on top of a feature.
We lost Farzad for the day.
Yeah.
For anyone interested, we use a bunch of state machines and state charts and a bunch of spawned actors to model all these interactions internally. And one of David's comments on my PR was that, hey, it's actually very nice to see how easy it is to add these features to the interactions. Right, David?
Yeah, because you see, interactions like this, and it doesn't matter if they get complex or anything. It's just a matter of you have an event or maybe a couple of events, and you handle those events in the proper state. So for instance, you might not want this doing anything in simulation mode. Right now, we are using XState in a lot of places in the editor. There are parts where we are using a custom state machine implementation. That's sort of, I like to call it reverse dogfooding, because it's like we really, really ought to be using XState for that part. However, I wrote it like 2 years ago, and I just didn't think about that at the time. So yeah, it's a good refactor target, but still the principles are the same. You send events, you handle the logic like selecting all the nodes or just multiple selecting. And so the PR for being able to select in the left-hand side was actually pretty small, because it's just using the exact same events and handling the shift key. So it was really nice to see.
Exactly.
Very cool. So next up, talking of demos, we actually have a video, and this video is, you can watch the whole of it on this URL, which I will also paste into the comments. And this is from your React Next talk, David, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I gave a very short demo on how the Stately Studio or Stately Editor can export a machine that you created like completely visually, and how you could use it directly in a project.
Great. And for those who didn't get to watch it at the time, I can play it.
It doesn't work yet, because what we want to do is so let's say that you have an example app. And so this actually doesn't work yet, because what we want to do is we want this video to go from this mini view to a full view and then start playing. And then when the video is over, we want it to stop and go back to the mini view, or when we press the escape key, or when we click the video again, we want it to stop playing and go back. All right, so instead of juggling use effect and everything like that, what I'm going to do instead is, you guessed it, use a state machine. So don't be intimidated. This is not live coding. This is live diagramming. So it's a little bit easier on the eyes. So I'm going to add another state over here. We're going to have a full state. And so this is going to be when the video is shown full screen. All right, so how do we go back and forth between these? Well, we toggle it. So we could toggle that. And so we know that, when we toggle back, so I'll do this right here. All right, and obviously this is a very simple state machine, and this isn't exactly the point of like why you would use a state machine, but one relatively unknown benefit of using a state machine is expressing effects. So we know that when we toggle from mini to full, we want the video to play. So I'm gonna add an action over here, which is just video.play. And so when we toggle back, I want the video to pause. So I'm just gonna type here, video.pause. And there's other things called invocations. And so these are effects that are pretty much long-lived. And so you could think about them as the original use case for use effect. These are long-lived effects where you have to synchronize with them. And so there's two of them that we're going to listen to. We're going to listen to when the video ends, and we're also going to listen to keydown.escape, because we want to know when the escape event happens, we should actually go back to mini. So I'm going to do that. So key.escape. Didn't want that new state. And also we are going to listen to video.ended. So the idea is that, and I'll just simulate this, we're in the mini state. When we toggle, we go to full, and then when any of these three things happen, either the video ends, an escape key is pressed, or we toggle back to mini, we want to go back to the mini state, but we also want the video to pause. So we know that pausing the video is going to happen in any of these events. And so this is one of the cool parts about state machines, is that instead you could simplify this and add an exit action. So I'm just going to put video.pause over here. And that way we don't need to do it here. All right, so I made a nice diagram. You're thinking, all right, this is pretty cool. I could have done this in Excalidraw or in Miro or Whimsical or Lucidcharts or whatever the heck you use. But instead, we're doing it here because this actually exports to code, and hopefully this works. But if I paste the exact same code I copied over here, and I have the actions already baked in here. So for video.play, we call video ref.code.play. Hopefully it works. And so when we click, we go full screen. When I press escape, go back, click. When the video ends, it should go back to Mini again. And there you go. We live coded without, without coding.
Now, hang on. I'm just going to unmute the lot of you, or at least... Oh, there we go. Those of you who haven't muted yourselves. And so that was a great video. You had some great reception there, David, didn't you?
Yeah. You know, I guess people were excited. So my purpose behind showing that demo was basically to describe how effects can be modeled, like using state machines, and how it, you know, it sometimes, or actually a lot of times, makes a lot more sense than just randomly calling effects through your code base. So, and well, also to introduce people to the Stately editor.
Yeah, I think it does a really great job with that. An older version of the Stately editor, because even in that short period of time, we've made so many improvements to how the canvas works.
Yeah, I can't wait to get future demos with the some of the new designs that we have.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Well, speaking of the future, hey, Gavin, we could... it would be nice to have folks understand a little bit more about what you've been working on, seeing as it's all been a little bit secret squirrel lately, hasn't it?
Secret Squirrel is one of my favorite childhood characters, so now I'm motivated to keep it Secret Squirrel. Yeah, I'd be happy to talk about it. So when David brought me on, I had already worked with him in the past, and I was already pretty sold on state machines as a more prominent dev tool. But when he brought me on, we had a really deep discussion about, hey, think about all the projects we've worked on and all the projects we've architected and all the projects that we've found ourselves rebuilding for, you know, a slightly different application over and over again with our time working with various clients. He goes, you know, a good bit of them could have just been very large state charts / state machines. And I took him up on that challenge. I went home and I was already home, to be honest with you. But I took that challenge and went and revisited old projects and realized, yeah, no, you boil it all down, it's kind of just, it's state machines all the way down. And I had a quarter life crisis and then decided to work with Stately and sort of realize the vision of building out state charts for backend workflows. And when you think about a backend workflow, you can think about it in terms of, well, what happens that almost always has to touch a database that could be potentially long-lived. And that could be anything from a data ETL flow all the way down to machine learning operations. You can think of long-running approvals processes or rules-based engines or things like that. I feel like half the chat is already, you know, just having heart palpitations with some of the words that I've thrown out there. They've probably had past projects where they lived through those pains. The challenge is with many of those systems, they have to be fault tolerant by design. They have to be scalable and expandable without it stepping on each other. And you can find yourself literally in bad states pretty easily, especially now in a very microservices centric world. So I said all that to say, right now I am working pretty exclusively on building out, taking XState core and making that work on the back end using serverless compute resources like we're all, you know, familiar with using. For starters, we're doing AWS functions, AWS Lambdas, excuse me. But you can expect support for things like Azure Functions, Cloudflare Durable Workers, and other like prominent serverless approaches in the future. And I'm happy to say that we're pretty close to nailing down the actual deployment aspect of backend workflows, building them out. So getting your compute resources and stateful storage resources up and running and giving you an endpoint to say, hey, this is where my machine lives. Do the thing, please. That's working pretty well. Cross my fingers and knock on all the wood. So I hope that gives some clarity around what the heck I've been working on since the last time I hopped on office hours.
Oh, I think it's going to make people really excited. A lot of people have been talking about wanting to use state machines for workflows in this way.
Oh, that's so great. Yeah, we have seen a lot of love for it in the Discord channel, which has been very exciting. And further, and I'm gonna alley-oop this to the next part of the segment we have going. We've seen some really cool applications of XState on the back end, more home rolled and more bespoke. So we're trying to take that concept and sort of generalize it for anyone to use. So I believe the company's name is Salty. We got to see them demo, and I think we're gonna share some of that with y'all.
Is that at this this particular tweet, Twiz.com? I am not going to read all of that. I'll paste that into the comments as well so that you all can go find it, and I'll post it at the bottom of the video description when we put the video out for everyone as well.
Yeah, so I really recommend you watch this demo because it's basically showing Temporal at Salty, like Gavin mentioned, which is an insurance company. And it was actually really cool because they're using XState on top of Temporal, which is a, I guess you could think of it as a, backend robust workflow engine that lets you write code that really feels like normal code and just operate it in a fault tolerance distributed way. And so they used XState not only to visualize the actual business logic going on with their insurance flows, but also visualize it. And so when we're talking visuals, like it was actually really stunning. They built their own custom visualizer for it in 3D, which is just really awesome. I don't know if we'll ever support 3D, but it's really cool that they did it. And it was super interesting because they were able to show, at least in a simulated mode, users going through these flows in real time. So they were able to show like different flows, sort of like a heat map, but 3D. So they were able to make things wider and taller and different colors and all of that. So I really recommend that you watch this video because it's really an impressive demo of how you could use XState on the back end, and especially with an awesome technology like Temporal.
Yeah, if I can plus one you on that, David, I also had the pleasure of seeing that demo, and it was incredible. I mean, 3D environment aside, which never say never, guys. I'm just saying. I've been taking some Unity classes, so no, I'm kidding. But it was really, really impactful just to see the observability component of what they were able to do by using state machines. So you can see, David, you mentioned heat maps, but you can see literal paths because it's a very what they were doing was very complicated set of workflows that can terminate in different places and take different paths to get to the same places potentially. And so you could see in an ordered list, hey, what are the hottest paths? What are the most common paths that X number of users take with Y constraints and things like that? And that's something that I found really inspiring, at least in my work, for considering how we want to expose developers to the goings-ons of their own services. And I'm done, I promise.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So we posted the link in the chat, and also I just retweeted on Twitter if you want to look there.
Great. We'll make sure that everyone can see that later on too. We'll get it in the roundup posts as well. Now, this week we had a question of the week, which is what should we include in a curated list of machines? And this is part of our starting to look into what examples would be useful for all of you to learn from when you either want to get started learning about XState and learning about stately tools for the first time, or if you just want to get started on a new project and you want to have something to kick you off. Kevin, do you want to talk a little bit more about some of the ideas we've got from this? I'm putting you totally on the spot here.
That's fine, Laura. Sure. Well, I guess I would start by just mentioning that we at Stately actually use a lot of our state machines and to build the features that we've mentioned, and so a lot of this comes along with us working almost in parallel with all of you, to actually see concrete needs in our code and things that can be improved by using state machines. So we want it to be sort of like a dialogue. In terms of some specific ideas, I recently wrote that blog post about, let's say, using hooks and machine hooks, and I think that that's actually a really nice on-ramp to kind of slowly or incrementally add machines to your code base without needing to remodel your entire application. And so from that, there are different ideas that have come out. So, for example, that one example used like a toggle machine. I know that on Twitter, somebody, I guess, presenters actually that mentioned something about like a debalance machine, and there was a lot of different things that you find yourself using all the time that we could probably create, off-the-shelf examples or variations of that sort of thing. So I think that's where we're going with this.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, the example that you suggested there will be coming up in a second that Anders recommended, because we did ask this question and we had a few responses. Funnily enough, most of them were even from the team. We're that enthusiastic about examples on the team. So our friend No Brainer said on Discord, the only thing I can think of are real world examples of when history states and parallel states are a good idea. And I think that this would be a really great angle for our examples, is basically taking the concepts that you use with state charts, state machines, and showing great examples of when you might actually want to use them, when you might want to use parallel states, when you might want to use history states, when you might want to use even parent and child states. I think it would be valuable to have good use cases for those.
Yeah, actually, this reminds me recently where I considered using parallel states, and then I ended up opting to just create two machines and then to combine them in a custom hook. So in a sense, the hook sort of acted like the parent, of those two different parallel machines. But sometimes it might be more suited to actually use the parallel, feature of state charts of machines or not.
Oh yeah, I'd love to read a blog post about that.
Yeah,
like what went into the decision making on that, for sure. And Freddie said exponential backoff. Is that a machine the rest of you might use?
Yeah, that's a good one, especially on the server side.
I sure would. Yeah. I'm very biased. Yeah, and more so than just exponential back off, right? I think, being able to model several different back off strategies would be excellent. Just, you've got a process going. You tried to hit the service. It didn't work out. Okay, so now it's time to wait. What's the best strategy for how long I wait for, my business or my business needs specifically? And how often do we want that to happen? Historically, we've had creative uses of timers, or like in .NET land, we would use Poly, which is an awesome client-side C# library for it. But having a tried and true method that, hey, this is a temporal state machine that knows, okay, I tried this last week, I'll try it again this week, or I tried this 2 seconds ago, I'm going to try in 10 seconds. That would be great.
Right. And so for those who don't know, exponential backoff is just like, if you're trying something and it doesn't work, you're going to retry like after maybe a second. But then if it's not working, then you're like, okay, maybe it'll work like in 2 seconds, and then 4 seconds, 8 seconds. So you're taking longer. And you might have noticed this when like, let's say you have a shady internet connection on Gmail or whatever email clients you use, and it will say retrying in like 40 seconds or 2 minutes or something like that. That's an example of exponential backoff. And there's a lot of patterns like that. Another one is the circuit breaker pattern, which is another one where it's sort of like exponential backoff in that it's a custom retry policy, but there's like a closed open and a half open circuit, for, I guess, retrying. I forget exactly what the circuit breaker pattern is, but if you Google it, then you're going to see a lot of examples, and you're actually going to see a lot of state machines because they're typically described as state machines. So
it'd be the perfect example to have. Then this unknown person called Anders said, a debounce machine, please. In response to which, this other unfamiliar person, Kevin, said, I just worked on one, but there can be various flavors for sure. And this is one of Kevin's lovely debounce machines that he produced.
Oh, I love this. Good job, Gavin.
Yeah, thanks. I think Farzad also had another flavor, right? Isn't that right?
Yeah, I just pasted it here. This is based on the Lodash's complex debounce function.
So we're already racking up examples.
Yeah, this actually reminds me of a discussion that I had with the team a long while ago. That I have a younger brother who's learning like the basics of computer science. Not that I'm an expert, but like I could teach him a thing or two. And I use the XState editor to describe computer science fundamental concepts for him. Things like time practices, such as like exponential backoff is one of the algorithms that deal with timers, right? Debouncing is one, deferring, I don't know, throttling and things like that. These are all sorts of like algorithms and practical techniques that we can use. And I think diagrams in general or the stately editor is a perfect tool for showcasing these sort of techniques and algorithm and teach them. It's a great way of teaching computer science fundamentals. Like, I mean,
It makes
I
everything
could also
visual.
like, yeah, exactly. I mean, you could visualize, I don't know, like finding the shortest path in a graph using recursion or whatever. I mean, whatever you want. But it would be really easier to trace it visually for most people than to just read some code in a recursive way.
Me, I'm most people. I need to see things happen in order to internalize them. So I'm happy you're doing that, Farzad.
Yeah, I'm a visual learner too, so you're not alone. Probably half of the world is like you.
Same here.
Yeah.
You know, that brings up a really good point. I remember when we used to, I guess, work in office, which I'm sure most people here have worked in an office where you could peer over and look at the desk of the person next to you and talk to them. Whenever you two needed to just understand something or figure out a problem, you wouldn't type a Word document to them and be like, hey, here's a long piece of text explaining the problem. You'd be like, hey, let's walk over to the whiteboard and draw boxes and arrows. And so I feel like that's a great way to explain things rather than, hey, look at all this code. You know?
Yeah, especially that diagramming shows you most of the edge cases up front before even you have to like spend some time refactoring what you created last night, for example. Yeah, I guess you're thinking, picks up on alternatives and makes you ask the right questions before even having any changes in place.
Right.
Fun fact, I just learned literally last week where the term debounce comes from. It's from electronics, apparently. The example being, if you press a button on a remote, that signal actually lasts way longer and the TV's already caught that signal, right? And so it actually disables the source while it waits on you for a set amount of time to account for human pressing and releasing things. I thought it was really cool.
So it's the bounce of the button?
Don't ask me what the bounce is, David. I didn't know.
The state machines are huge in electronics, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
They're like huge.
Oh, yeah.
Right, and so one of the things that we've also set up is another board on our Canny, which is at, I've got the URL here somewhere. There we go, statelyai.canny.io, so that if you do have any examples that you want us to include or you want to suggest, please add them to this specific examples board. And you can upvote on other people's suggestions, and that will give us an idea of what's most popular and some of the options that we should get started with first as well.
Laura, also, I see that, Florian talked about the XState catalog. And I think that, if you're not familiar, there you go. There are a lot of great examples that Mac Pocock created there. And so if anyone, has anything there they'd like to see some other variations on, or, if anything, perhaps could be updated or something like that, or just want to see it in an editor, in the visualization, then, we could also, cherry pick things there or build on those. That's a great collection.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Matt did great work there. We're going to stand on the shoulder of that particular giant in this work for sure. And Danny appreciated the debounce machine. Thanks, Danny. So last up, Farzad, you are speaking at an event next week. You want to say the name
it's
of
an
it?
event. It's called Web Dev and Sausages. It's based on a city here in Finland called Tampere. And I'm going to be speaking about visual programming and executable models. Spoiler alert, this is going to be about the studio.
It sounds great. And is that a local conference, or can people watch it online? Or
it's a
anything
local
like
meetup held in my one of my previous companies called Featurize. It's in their Tampere office, and there's going to be 3 talks. The last one is probably me, and after that there's going to be sauna, beer, and everything.
Ooh,
it sounds wonderful. Yeah. And you're a great speaker. I think it'll be really fun to attend. So if you are from anywhere in the surrounding areas, I highly recommend you go catch Farzad speaking.
Thank you. I'll manage. Yeah.
And so that's the 18th of August, isn't it?
It is, yes. Exactly one day before the next office hours. So if there's any sort of recording
catch up
or
then.
link to the slides, yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I hope it is recorded. I'd like to watch it back for sure.
Same. Oh, they have a board
And
website.
on the 25th to 26th of August, I am speaking at Front Conference in Zurich. Again, it will be my third time. I realized that the last time I spoke was 7 years ago. So at that particular conference, no, the first time I spoke at that conference was 7 years ago. So I am hopefully making a triumphant return. We shall see. And I'll be talking about different types of design deliverables and perhaps how state charts might feature in those deliverables in the future, because I think that it's a really great option for designers to become more involved in how the application actually works, rather than just focusing on the visual side of it. There's the old speculative artifacts that we've spoken about many a time before.
Yeah. Well, I hope both those talks are recorded for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah. With the Front Conference, the talks are going to be recorded, and there are also online tickets. If anyone can't make it in person or doesn't want to because of COVID and all of that, then you can get a ticket online. I think they're pretty reasonably priced as well. It's always a good fun event.
Yeah, definitely share it with your design team or design department. Gonna help with adoption.
Mm-hmm.
Fingers crossed. Does anyone on the team have anything else they wanted to mention this week before we wrap up?
Just one more thing to mention. We do have a Twitch, and that's at twitch.tv/statelyai. Right now, I think we have like 5 subscribers or something like that. This is going to be our home for future, I don't know, just live streaming coding. Especially on core, I'm planning on doing a lot more work in the open. So if you want to get a behind the scenes look of how we think, what we're planning, and what we're doing, then that will be the place to go. So yeah, please follow us there if you are a Twitch consumer.
Great.
Help us bring our followers to double digits.
Write a banner. There we go. I hope that's right. Is it .tv, twitch.tv or .io? I'll make sure it's the correct
TV.
link in the notes. It'll be fine.
Twitch.tv,
Everyone's an IO or a TV nowadays, aren't they? Right. And on that note, let's wrap up. It's been a great one. Lots to share this week. And we will be back again at the same time next week. We try to make every Friday. And so thank you for joining us. Thank you, everyone who's been live in the comments. We always really appreciate your company. We will see you again next week. Goodbye.
See you all.